So, just to start, I guess, can you tell me your name and title?
My name is Quinn Huffman, and my title with Acquira is Director of Acquisitions. Currently, I am the acting general manager of one of the plumbing companies that we've bought in Missoula, Montana, called Plum Tech Plumbing and Heating.
And how did you guys first become aware of Plum Tech?
So we've been sourcing businesses for about 6 months at the point where we found Plum Tech. The reason that we were actually attracted to the business is it's in an area where there's very low competition. We also, we every time that we do source businesses and we speak with them, we'll create good rapport with the current owners. And the business that we found here, the owner is very genuine. The company itself is well established. It's well running. It's been around for about 15, 20 years. Their multiple is very good in the sense that they're doing very well with the very minimum employees that they have. They much smaller company than what we usually look for, and currently they are operating with 4 techs, so five employees in total. However, the profit margins are quite high as there is no competition really here. A lot of the businesses in the area are about 3 to 4 people, and it is a very family-oriented area in Missoula, Montana. So that's kind of how we found it and why we were attracted to it. And after many discussions, we decided to go ahead with more of a partnership than an acquisition, in the sense that the owner actually retained 20% equity in the business, which is important to us, seeing though they know the business better than anybody, and what they really wanted was help. So what we did was we brought in our marketing and our expertise with software and systems implementation. And yeah, that's basically how we got to the point we're at now.
And once you guys started the process, what were the first 7 days like for you? Do you remember the first 7 days?
So, me not having it's a plumbing and heating company. Me not having that background, that expertise, it is quite difficult. But I think the main thing to always remember is that you're not going to change anything overnight. It's never going to be something where you're making immediate changes when you come into a business. The first 7 days, what's really important is getting to know the people that are working at the business, whether it be 2 people, whether it be 100 people. You really want to learn what the individuals are doing on a day-to-day basis, what interests them, what is a negative impact they have to deal with every day. And doing that, the best thing to do is kind of have these one-on-ones with them and ask them, what are your goals? How can we help you reach them? What credentials do you have? Is there any education that we can get you? Let them know who you are, what your intentions are. Let them know, nothing's changing overnight, but what our plan is to grow the company, and we want to make sure that you are an integral part of that growth. It's very important to kind of teeter on the edge of not letting them think that you're going to be replacing them or there's going to be less work for them. What you always want to do is let them know that anytime that we're adding somebody, it's because we are backed up with work that we have gotten through our marketing and our growth.
Mm-hmm. And how steep was the learning curve for you at first? Like you said, you don't have a background in this industry, obviously. So how steep was it?
I mean, it's difficult. I maybe it's better to kind of give a background on myself. I come from an IT background. I've worked in as a database analyst in banks. I've worked for RIM, BlackBerry at the time. I've worked in hospitals, universities. I've never worked in a home service business and a plumbing business, but I think it's a very steep learning curve. But don't get overwhelmed in anything that you're doing. It's important to always kind of stay grounded and know that these businesses have been around for 10 plus years. They're working the way they are. What your goal is just to improve processes. I'm not going out in the field. I'm not doing any plumbing myself. I'm not, I there's a lot of terminology you're going to have to learn, but I think that's important in any business, is to understand exactly what you're working with. However, there is a situation where you not being too embedded in what's happening is allowing you to kind of have a very high level perspective on what needs to be done in the business itself. So the learning curve for sure is very high. However, you just need to be very patient. I think patience is the most important thing that you'll learn when you're in a business, because people are going to be flustered. People are going to be looking for answers. It's always just good to kind of just take your time and make sure things are done properly instead of quickly.
Right. And sorry if we're like treading on the same ground a little bit, but do you remember like the first thing you did when you showed up to the first day?
The first thing I did was I brought in coffee and met everybody. And you know what? Once again, it's a smaller team. If you're buying a business where there's 100 employees, that's not going to be possible. But with your leadership team, I think it's important. So I brought in coffee. I sat down with everybody. I told them my background. I told them what our company's background is, what our goals are for the future, and just to let them, just be confident in their ability to continue working with the company, and let them know that, I'm here for them. And I find that they are the irreplaceable part of the business, that the part that's working, and we just want to, make sure that you're comfortable and we're not taking anything away from you. So, in the first day, it's more of just getting to know the people, getting to be comfortable. I would recommend don't come empty-handed. Coming with coffee or donuts or just something, it's a good icebreaker. And just being personable. Like, don't come in as a business guy saying, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. Just coming in and having a conversation, getting to know the people, learning, something that's personal to them so that you can relate with them. Maybe a local football team or a hobby or something like that is pretty important for kind of future growth as well.
What was the local thing in Missoula that you latched onto?
Hunting.
Yeah.
I think the three big things here are hunting, fishing, and hiking, and I don't do any of those. So as much as you want to relate, there's definitely going to be a bit of a barrier depending if you're a city slicker or a mountain man.
Right. So what was the first, what did you find most surprising about the whole process?
In the company itself, or the process of taking over the business?
The process of taking over the business.
There's a lot to learn. I think, you can prepare as much as you want of knowing, all right, I have to get bank statements in order. I have to learn the software that they're using. I have to learn, the supplies that they're using.
Sorry.
No worries. One of the most surprising things, I think, for me was learning that, not everybody has the same health benefits. And when you go to a different company, that's, in America especially, is a very important thing. On top of that, there's also a situation where I didn't know prior that people had to buy their own tools when they work in a business like this. So it's kind of one of the first things I did was implemented a tool allowance program where we would allow people $500 a year just to do any upgrades or purchases of tools, so that they don't feel that they have to be using kind of outdated tools that are corded, have cords. We always want to send your techs out with, and this is specific to plumbing, but I think it can be kind of universal in any business, is just hearing more of what your employees face on a day-to-day basis. That's a difficulty. That's a really important thing to not only relate with them, but to actually improve the business right away without changing anything that's common for them.
Right. Looking back now at at the beginning of the process, do you see anything you would do differently?
Yeah, I'm sure. I off the top of my head, it's kind of difficult to think of specific things, but I think that it's, when I first came in, I was knowing that this business didn't have software. It didn't have a lot of the stuff that we were planning to implement. So Service Titan is a big program that we use in a lot of these home service businesses. And then also switching benefits programs and working with the bank. And I think at first I took on too much in the sense that I was trying to do everything, but I was doing everything at 10%. I would say that if I were to do it again, in hindsight, I would, take it 1 week at a time and just say, okay, this is what I'm going to work on this week, and I'm not going to move off of it until I've finished it. It's important to realize that, it's not a quick turnaround of anything. It's not something where you can just come in and say, all right, like I can do all of this in 3 months. All you're going to do is stress yourself out. You're going to be working 12, 14 hours a day, which is not the reason that you bought a business. You bought a business so that you could learn and that you could build it and you could grow it and then eventually become more absentee. Another thing that I think is important, depending on the structure of the business that you're purchasing, it is important to realize, like, is there somebody that you could immediately hire that could take some of that workload off of you if the cash flow of the business could support it. So in my situation, I think it would have been important for me to have hired somebody in the early days that would be doing, that I could delegate the work to. So for instance, if I were to use Service Titan as an example, I would say, okay, I'll set up the whole process of speaking with them and getting the program. However, for the data entry of everything, like it's something that I was taking on myself and doing in the after hours, where I don't have the expertise of plumbing. I don't understand a lot of the terminology. And I think that's pretty important when you're implementing that system, is that you have somebody that understands exactly what they're actually putting into that system, opposed to researching every step of the way. So, yeah, in hindsight, I think there's many things you're going to find in any business where you wish that you did it differently. But once again, just being patient. I think I'm a type of person that likes to get things done fast and almost rush it to the point that it's detrimental. So being patient and understanding that things aren't going to change overnight.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about delegating, actually. Like, how important do you feel it is to rely on the expertise of the people that are already at the business?
I think it's very important. I mean, it's once again, hearing them out of okay, how are you doing something is more important, because somebody could do something very well, but they might be spending 30% of the time doing a manual process that doesn't need to be done. We for a really good example of this in this company in specific, what they were doing was the techs were coming in every day and they were handwriting out everything that they did throughout the day, so that our service manager could analyze it and see, okay, are they doing things properly? Because the service manager can't be on every single job with every single person. What I realized was that it's time consuming and a lot of stuff gets forgotten because you're waiting till the end of the day to write it in. So what I did was I just created a quick form-based application where when they finish a job, it has the same stuff that they're writing on the paper, and they could say, okay, this is the job I went to, these are the materials that I used, and this is what I did. Instantaneously, you kind of saw an increase in their communication because they were doing it at the time and in real time, opposed to having it in their head and doing it at the end of the day. So I'm not sure if that answered your question directly, but it's more of I think a lot of these businesses that you buy, these people have been here for multiple years. They've been doing it a certain way. So, and not to change it too much, but to improve it is the most important thing. But you do want to rely on their general knowledge of the work that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. For you, what do you think was the most exciting part of the whole process?
The challenge. It's as I said at the beginning of this call, it's not something that I've ever done before. I've never run a plumbing company. I've never even been to Montana. Prior to this, I was living in Mexico. So when I moved up here and got off the plane in t-shirt and shorts, it was a bit of a rude awakening when in Celsius they were pretty much -10. So that's the challenge of you're out of your comfort zone. I think it's a scary thing, but it's the best way to improve in life is to just get out of your comfort zone. And you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail, and you're gonna learn, and that's the best way to grow in life is to always just keep failing until you've reached your goal, right? So I'd say that's the most interesting and fun thing about it. And for a lot of people, the challenge is getting outside of your comfort zone is obviously uncomfortable. But I think that once you do it, you become so much more confident in yourself, and you grow as a person and as a business.
That actually leads me nicely into my next to last question. What do you think was what was the most challenging part for you?
Knowledge gap. Managing people as well as looking at a high level of the business. I've worked in remote businesses before, and I've worked underneath people before, and you're not really making those decisions that will alter people's lives. So, it is challenging to know that you're working with people. You're not working with numbers. You're working in a situation where, the little change that you make here can trickle down and have a waterfall effect to a lot of other people. Just knowing that a lot of people rely on you is a challenge, but if you're feeling confident and comfortable in your decisions, it's really rewarding to see that you're bettering people's lives at an individual level.
That's great. And just lastly, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about signing on to acquire a company?
I hate to repeat myself, but patience. Honestly, I do really feel that patience is the most important thing. I have definitely been in a situation where I've had not a nervous breakdown, but a very uncomfortable days where I'm like I don't know if I'm doing this right. And when somebody asks you a question, you don't have the immediate answer. The important thing to remember is that nobody has the answer to everything. I think that if you're confident in the things that you do know and you go about your day like that, and if there is stuff that comes up where you have to answer it on the spot, you don't have to answer something on the spot. You can take your time and just say, I don't know the answer right now, but I'll get back to you, and you'll be more confident with the answer that you finally give. So it's a challenge for sure. Be very confident in yourself that you'll be able to do it. And remember that, nothing, Rome wasn't built in a day, as cliche statement is, but it's one of those things where you just need to be very patient with yourself and patient with others, and know that you're doing this to better yourself and to better others.
That's great. All right, dude, thanks for taking the time to do this.
No problem.